She was always home by 9:30 on Thursdays. Punctuality had been her hallmark. Sometimes she'd arrive a little earlier, cautious and deliberate in every movement. By 10:15 he would return, his evenings spent at the lodge. It was a routine so precise it felt scripted. The lodge meetings were his father-in-law's legacy, a tradition he joined initially to please them both, but over time, it became more than that. The civil service aspect appealed to him. He had a knack for organizing, and soon enough, his diligence earned him a spot on the Board of Governors. He chaired the scholarship committee, tirelessly working to fund community college scholarships for deserving youth. She respected his dedication and made sure to be presentable when he returned, clean, composed. Sometimes she'd already be in bed, but often she waited up for him. They'd talk about their days, the scholarship fund, and the mundane yet comforting details of married life. Occasionally, they'd make love, but more often, they simply lay entwined, finding solace in each other's arms. But tonight was different. As she pulled into the driveway, unease rippled through her. His car was parked at an angle, blocking both garage doors. She stepped out, her pulse quickening. They'd spoken just minutes ago. She'd told him she was on her way. Yet something felt off. The house was a 3-bedroom beauty she reluctantly agreed to after years of apartment living. He had convinced her to make the leap when her lease expired. It wasn't ostentatious, but had a dignified charm. A porch wrapped around the front, complete with a swing beneath ceiling fans where they often sat, sharing lazy summer evenings. As she approached the house, memories of happier times tugged at her. The backyard, fenced in, had a small swing set and a kiddie pool, a tableau for the future family they dreamed of. Just last month, they'd been laying a flower bed together when she told him she was ready. "I'm ready," she'd said, her voice soft but firm. "Not yet," he'd replied, mistaking her meaning. "We haven't added the fertilizer or lime. We need to mix it before planting." "No," she'd interrupted, tossing a handful of soil his way. "I'm ready to have a baby." His reaction had been immediate and overwhelming. He'd tackled her into the freshly turned soil, pinning her to the ground with a joyous laugh. Their lovemaking that day had been slow, tender, a meeting of souls rather than just bodies. But now, those moments felt distant, unreachable. She climbed the porch steps and nearly screamed when she saw him sitting on the swing, shrouded in shadows. "Jesus, Kenny, you scared me," she said, clutching her chest. "Come on, let's go inside." "No," he replied, his voice eerily calm. "Stay. Let's enjoy the breeze for a while." He patted the spot next to him. She hesitated but sat down. The silence between them was suffocating. "Where were you?" he asked. "You said you'd be here, but you weren't when I got home." She fidgeted, searching for a plausible excuse. "I didn't feel like sleeping," she finally said. "I remembered I was almost out of gas, so I went to the corner market." "There's barely a quarter tank left," he replied, his tone cutting. Her heart raced. Had he checked? He reached for her hand, gripping it firmly. "Funny," he said, his voice like ice, "because I could have sworn you just got back from the Hideaway Motel on Fifth Avenue. Room 69, wasn't it?" Her breath caught. I don't know what you're—" "Stop." His grip tightened, his calm demeanor unraveling. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want you to listen. Promise me you'll listen before you say anything." She nodded, tears pooling in her eyes. "When I first heard about it, I didn't believe it. One of your friends saw you. Don't ask who. I don't know. They sent an anonymous email. I ignored it at first, but the doubt took root. It consumed me until I couldn't ignore it anymore. So I checked." He paused, his voice faltering for the first time. "I asked a friend to help. It was humiliating, asking him to do something so invasive. He followed you, took pictures. Pictures of you and him. Going in, coming out. Kisses goodbye." Her sobs grew louder, but he pressed a finger to her lips. "Hush," he whispered. "You promised to listen." She nodded again, her body trembling. When I saw the pictures, I thought I'd die. The sound of my heart breaking. It was deafening. But then I needed to know why. Why would you do this to us? To me. His voice cracked as he leaned closer. And him. Your sister's husband, Les. The woman who raised you when your mom died. She sacrificed everything for you, gave up her own life to give you a childhood. How could you betray her like this? She broke down completely, curling into herself. He stood, his shadow looming over her like a storm cloud. I won't tell her, he said finally. She doesn't deserve that pain. But you'll have to live with this. With that, he turned and walked into the house, leaving her on the swing, her sobs echoing into the night. She sat there, utterly broken, overwhelmed by a mix of emotions. She wanted to scream, to beg for forgiveness, to make it right, but no words came. Deep down, she knew that nothing could fix the mess she had created. It was almost impossible to reconcile the exhilaration she had once felt. The smug satisfaction of getting away with something so trivial and yet so damaging. It had seemed like a game back then, an innocent escape. But now, everything felt childish, petty, and empty. As the realization set in, she couldn't help but think of how she could somehow patch up the damage, how to salvage something from the wreckage she had made. How could she have been so foolish? But the worst part was the overwhelming sense of regret, the ache of knowing that her actions had ruined something beautiful. Yet, in the deepest recesses of her heart, she still clung to the belief that he loved her. He always had. She convinced herself that his love would conquer all, that he would forgive her, no matter what. That thought had always been her anchor, the excuse she used to justify her mistakes. Even if she was caught, she believed that his love would never waver, that he would never leave her. But now, she found herself doubting everything she had believed in. Her mind raced. Why was she consumed by this paralyzing doubt now? She looked up, realizing the gravity of what she had done. Her pulse quickened when he spoke again. I slipped something into your purse, he said, his voice colder than before. Do you remember that nifty little flashlight I bought for you? It was more than just a flashlight, Les. It was a voice-activated recorder. It's incredible what you can find online these days. Her blood ran cold as he continued, his words like a hammer pounding on her chest. I could hear everything between you two. There was no spark, no passion, just two people going through the motions. I heard you laugh when he called it knocking back a quick piece. Why? Why did you do it if it meant so little to both of you? She wanted to interrupt, to explain, but he silenced her with a glance. I had a plan, he said. A simple plan. I figured if it meant so little, maybe if I just interfered, you'd give it up. I would stop you from meeting him. Make it hard for you to see him. I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd see it was not worth it. So I got the recorder and played it. His voice faltered as he recalled the conversation he had heard. I listened to that tape. It was your undoing, Les. I heard you tell him it would be the last time. But then you said, we don't need to wait long to get pregnant. And I heard the way you spoke about him, as though he meant nothing. Nothing. You said, I want to make sure it's his. It stung. I don't know why, but it hurt. He paused for a moment, his hands shaking with fury as he pressed a button on the recorder. A chill swept through the air, and Les felt the world around her shatter as her own voice echoed from the small device, a cruel reminder of the lies she had told. The recording played on, her words filling the silence like daggers. I love him and want to make sure it's his. 2 weeks after the doctor confirms I'm pregnant, you'll be with me again. We'll see each other more often. All my friends say being pregnant turns you on. Just be glad Kenny will be around to take up the slack. Her breath caught in her throat as she listened to herself, each word a dagger that twisted deeper. Her face drained of color, and she began to hyperventilate, panic rising like a tidal wave. Kenny watched her, his face unreadable. His eyes were cold, yet there was pain buried in them, pain that mirrored her own. You have no idea, Les, he said quietly. The things that went through my mind when I heard those words. Ugly things, foul things. The kind of things I'm ashamed of. I wanted to destroy you. I wanted to kill Jerry. Slowly, torturously. And I almost did. He paused again, his voice a hollow echo of the man he had once been. But then I stopped. I thought about it. I thought about everything. I had a plan. A perfect one. Les looked at him, fear flooding her veins. Revenge, he said with a dark smile. I bet you're dying to know what it is. Well, here it is, darling. It's so easy. I don't know why it didn't occur to me before. He stood up and began to pace, his voice growing steadier, colder. From now on, it will never be the same between us. We'll never be Kenny and Les again. There will be no children, no little girls to laugh and play like you. No boy with your grace and my size. No Lamar's classes. No rubbing lotion on your tummy. No comforting you when you're in pain. I won't be there for you in the delivery room. No cuddles with the baby. There will be no kindergarten graduations, no high school achievements. I won't be there when they go to college or get their first job. I won't be there to teach them how to drive or to comfort them after their first heartbreak. You won't see your grandchildren, and I won't be there for you when you're old, your hands shaking too much to cut the cake at our golden anniversary. He took a deep breath, his voice turning to a whisper. I will sell this house, our house, the house we both loved. I will never hold it again, never see it as a place where our memories lived. It will just be a house, a cold structure, no different from any other. Tears welled up in his eyes as he looked at her one last time. You killed us, Les, just as surely as if you pulled a trigger. I've been thinking about it for 2 weeks now. I'm tired of thinking, tired of crying. I'm done feeling lost and alone. But there's a good woman out there, someone who'll know what it's like to be truly loved, someone who won't betray me. I'm going to find her. He took a step toward the door, then paused. I'm going now, Les. I've already taken what I wanted. It was nothing, just the truth. I didn't take any photos, no keepsakes. Just a few mental pictures to last me the rest of my life. He turned to leave, but then he stopped. One more thing. Tell Jerry to stay away from me. If I see him in a bar or anywhere else, he should leave. I don't want to see him. I won't hurt him, but he doesn't deserve my attention. I won't control my anger around him. With that, he walked out, leaving her alone in the silence. She ran after him, her voice breaking as she called out, Wait! Wait! You told me I could talk, please. Let me explain. I'll never touch anyone else again. I swear. He turned to her, his eyes cold. Never, he said. Never touch me again. You broke me, Les. And I'm done. Without another word, he climbed into his car and drove away, leaving her on the porch steps, her heart shattering as she cried uncontrollably into the night. The door to her world had closed, and she was left alone with the consequences of her choices.